Okay guys, I'm going to help you out with lesson 4's homework. And this first one is talking about what is the length of the shaded part of the meter stick in centimeters. Well, we know that a centimeter there's 100 centimeters in a meter. So if that meter is split up into 10, then there should be 10 centimeters in each one of those blocks. And if 3 are shaded, then that means that 30 centimeters are shaded on there. Then it says, what fraction of a meter is 3 centimeters? Well, if there's 100 in a meter, then 3 centimeters would be 3 out of 100, so it would be 3/100. Now this says in fraction form, express the length of the shaded portion of the meter stick. So really, it's either 3/10, because 3 of the tenths are shaded, or if you wanted to talk about hundredths, if we had split that into 100 pieces, it'd be 30/100. So it's either 30/100 of a meter or 3/10 of a meter. Part D says in decimal form express the length of the shaded portion, so it's either 3/10 or 30/100, but luckily we write that the same way, and so the way I'm going to write it is for 3/10 would be 0.3 meters once my pen lets me write. Here we go, 0.3 meters. Or 0.30, which would be 30/100, but those are the same thing, because the place after the tenths place after the decimal is the hundredths place. And it says what fraction of a meter is 30 centimeters, which is either 30 out of 100 or the 3/10, as you can see is shaded up there on part C. Okay, on number 2, it says fill in the blanks. 5/10 is equal to how many hundredths? That would be 50. If you can imagine 5 of those squares being filled in of the tenths, and then you split each tenth into 10, then it would be 50. Same thing here, 5/10 is equal to 50/100, and here 4/10 is equal to 40/100. You could check that with equivalent fractions, so if I multiply the numerator and denominator by 10, it's the only way that it would work out. Okay, let's look at 3. I'm going to cross out this bottom part because I don't want to confuse us with adding unlike denominators right now. But instead, let's just look at what it says. It says use the model to add the shaded parts as shown. And what it's showing right here is 1/10 and then 3/100 that are filled in, because it's 3 parts of a tenth. And so it's not letting me zoom in for some reason. But the way they wanted that split was into 1/10 and 3/100. So let's try this again. Here we have 3 whole tenths that are shaded in. 1, 2, 3. And then it looks like, and now it won't let me zoom in any further, but it looks like there are 8/10 of a tenth, which is 100th, that are shaded in. So your decimal would be 3/10 and 8/100, which would be 0.38. And the way they want us to split it is just like they did in the last one. So they want us to almost kind of do a number bond, and we're going to split it 0.38 into 3/10, which is in the tenths place, and 8/100, which is in the hundredth place. So we should have 0.38, which is 3/10 and 8/100. On C, there are 4/10 that are completely filled in. And then if I zoom in to see the hundredths, for some reason it's not letting me zoom in. Let me try again. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to have to do the best. It's not letting me zoom in and stay there. So it looks like, and you can probably see on your paper, I'm pretty sure it's 6/100 that are shaded in, because there's 4 that are left over that are not colored in. So it would be 0.46, which would be 4/10 if we broke it up in 6/100. Okay, number 4 says on each meter stick, shade the amount shown, then write the equivalent decimal. So the first one says 9/10 of a meter. Well, that's super easy because it's already split into tenths. So I'm just going to shade in 9 of those tenths. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And as a decimal, that would be 0.9. The next one says 15/100, which is a little bit harder. Well, I can shade in 1/10 because that will be 10/100, and then I need 5 more hundredths to get it to the 15. And it's kind of hard to separate here since it won't let me zoom in, but I'm going to try my best separating that tenth into tenths. So really, just shade in about half of the next block. And so as a decimal, that would be 0.15 because it's 1/10 and 5/100 meters. Okay, and the next one, it's 41/100 of a meter, so that means I'm going to shade in 4 of the big blocks because that's 10, 20, 30, 40 hundredths, or 4/10. And then I'm going to shade in 1 more hundredth right here to get the 41, so it'd be 0.41 meters. Okay, on the last problem, and again, it's not letting me zoom in for some reason, but on the last problem, we are going to use a number bond to break these up to pull it out into tenths and hundredths, and then write it as a decimal. So the first one says 23 hundredths, so I'm going to split that up into 2 tenths, because if I did it in tenths, it would be tenths, 2 tenths, and 3 hundredths. And if I wrote that as a decimal, it would be 0.23 meters. The next one says 38 hundredths, so it would be 3 tenths and 8 hundredths, which would be 0.38. The next one says 82 hundredths, so it would be 8 tenths and 2 hundredths. I don't know if it's going to show up down here, which would be 0.82. And the last one says 76 hundredths, which would be 7 tenths and 6 hundredths, which would add up to be 0.76. All right, if you have questions, let me know.